Has joined us again now from research and going to take us through a couple of the graphics and looking deeper into the party performance and how things are looking for the respective parties. So perhaps we can start off with the ANC and have a look at these, their performance in these local government elections. Obviously, we've seen a big drop in their supporter base. We've seen them losing a lot of the votes. And, what does this speak to the ANC? I mean, should they be panicking right now?
Yes, I mean, there are a number of factors, really. And that's why, even before the elections, Leanne, everyone just said the ANC is going to have a tough time. Because the factors were all there to see. Number one, service delivery in many municipalities has been a problem. That's factor number one. Number two, I mean, how many of us have been sitting in the dark? And then remember, people ascribe all of that to the ANC. The issues like July 7, is it July 7? Yes, July unrest.
Yes.
So all of those things, yes, they may have been more intense in KZN or Gauteng, but also they did have an impact generally because it touched everyone. I mean, you remember when you went to a shop and then you did not have some of the essentials? It talked to the bigger picture. So when people looked at all those factors to say, guys, are we being taken seriously? What are the issues? But also the internal challenges within the ANC. For the first time, the governing party goes to the polls with the engine of the party suspended. Not only suspended, going to court. And then you have seen people who are supporting the Secretary General going out there insulting maybe or even banning the shirts of the sitting president. What does that tell you? It tells you that the party is split. Yes, they are trying to renew it, but the fact of the matter and the evidence on the ground is that it's a house divided.
Can we look at the evidence? Factors. Can we look at the evidence? Because Freli's there. You've got a clear picture of the evidence in front of us.
Yeah. Just to add on Muzai's first point, you'll remember that coming into these elections, 29 municipalities were under administration.
Yeah.
86 billion rands in waste,
fruitless and wasteful
fruitless and irregular expenditure since 2016. So I guess this is part of the results of that. Let's go into the ANC's performance countrywide, per province.
Yeah.
Right now, with 97% of the VDs declared, ANC is only leading. The highest they got is from Limpopo with 68.56%, and Eastern Cape 62.78%.
If we look at Limpopo in 2016, where were they in 2016? Are we able to see that on this graphic?
In 2016, let's go to Limpopo in 2016.
68.7. So they've managed to hold steady in that province in particular.
They just a little bit, but 68 is good.
Now, in terms of, let's go to the Eastern Cape. So that's their second highest performance in the country, 62. That's what they got now.
From 65 to 62.
From 65. Talk us through the rest of them, but I think the comparison
the question we should be asking Mzwai is that, is ANC becoming a rural party?
Hey, there's a question for you.
Well, okay, this is how I'm going to answer it. I'm not going to say it's becoming a rural party. I know some people have been saying that, but the fact of the matter is that in the urban areas, it still has the majority of supporters. So then that fact falls away. But the question maybe should be, is the ANC losing support faster in urban areas than in rural areas? That's the question. If the trend, Maswele, continues, then that question of yours can arise. But at this stage, it is losing support faster in urban areas than in rural areas. But it still remains the biggest. That's why we look at the metros. It's still the biggest, and by far in some instances, of course, below the threshold of forming a government. So all those things, you have to look at them in totality. So And I think that's why when we were speaking to the leaders yesterday, they got very upset because they were saying, no, but you guys are saying we are losing. Look at number 2. We're more than twice number 2, so we're very far. Fair point, but my point was simple. For you to form a government, you need 50 plus 1. Mm-hmm. Are you there? No. Yes, it's local government, it's understandable. But just think for a moment if these were national governments.
You see, the thing with the ANC and the DA as well is quite good at this. They do internal polls, and they actually do polling quite regularly, especially when they feel there's a need to about certain pertinent issues. And the ANC will tell you right now that they expected worse than what they saw.
And you know what that means, Sakina? They know
They're not
the challenges.
They know what their problems are.
What is it that they've been doing? They know what is it that they have not been doing.
Yeah.
That's why they expected the worst. The question is, you are in power, you are in government. Why do you expect the worst?
Because of the reasons that you've outlined previously. Yeah. And I think more than anything, it is the internal squabbling of the ANC. Again, evidenced by what we are seeing in terms of the results, where the electorate is not just rejecting the ANC.
Yes.
The electorate seems to be balking at establishment politics, as it were. So you're seeing all of these new entrants coming in, getting an opportunity. But when it comes to them making an impact in the system, will they be able to do that?
That is the question. In fact, I mean, everyone has been talking about Action SA doing well. But in this instance, yes, I think we'll give them credit, particularly in Gauteng, as you outlined earlier. But it does appear that personality politics also plays a role. So, just for a moment, God forbid, Mashaba is not there. Will Action SA perform the same tomorrow?
Staying with the Mashaba issue, and I think this is a very interesting one, because Herman Mashaba, Action SA, on the campaign trail, very clear, I will not go into coalition with the ANC. He reiterated that last night, which is fine.
Yeah.
But as things are stacking up at the moment, it is very clear that in order to form governments, councils here, people are going to have to come together. And some of these are going to be very inconvenient partnerships if they are to come together. But the question is, going back to the campaign trail and the promises that were made on the campaign trail, are you able to sustain those?
Yes. Let me just come in there, Sakina. Also, and I was listening, and maybe it shows that Action SA is still a fairly new party. Because, you and I know that there are discussions between the DA and the ANC. Publicly, they are denying it, but we know they really do want to work together.
There is some toenadering, as
exactly. And here is a danger for parties, perhaps like Action SA. The fact of the matter is that you don't have sufficient votes at the moment. So if those two club together, you will become irrelevant. And they must be, you must sometimes be diplomatic in how you conduct yourself, because South Africans will call you out. Because if the DA and the ANC decide, oh well, for the good of the country, we work together. The question is, where are you?
Where do they go? Well, let's have a look at the votes of how they did in these elections, because, Action SA, really, look at that. So you've got up a nice picture there, just to give a little bit of an understanding of what Action SA did.
You remember, Action SA is coming in like a Gauteng party.
At the moment.
Yeah, it doesn't even appear on the national tally.
Yeah.
So this is how they performed in Gauteng, in the metros, where they were participating. Ekurhuleni, 6.5%. Johannesburg, 16%, which is big. In Tshwane, 8.5%.
It's a brilliant showing for a first time.
First party, not bad at all.
For me, the fact that in Johannesburg, they are ahead of the EFF that tells you something. It's a brilliant showing.
We
Let's give
need
it to them.
put this whole thing into
Yeah.
context. So maybe if we could look at what's happening in Gauteng, in Johannesburg, Ekurhuleni, and in Tshwane.
Yes.
So should we go into those? We'll
Because-
get you going, and then we'll talk about that, so we can actually break into
Yes,
those.
so let's go into
those
Gauteng
networks. Let's go to Gauteng.
and to maybe to the city of Johannesburg first.
So while we do that, can I ask a question? I mean, this vote that's coming from the city of Johannesburg, is that a vote of confidence into Herman Mashaba when he was mayor? Or is he just touching on the right chords? Is he hitting the right nerves with the voters?
I think here is the thing that sometimes South Africans, I don't know whether they fear to talk about it or they don't know how to phrase it correctly, but here is the thing that bothers South Africans. South Africans are not necessarily xenophobic. Of course, there have been incidents where, unfortunately, the ugly sins of xenophobia have shown. But here is what bothers South Africans. There are instances where, honestly, people who could be employed in particular establishments, and then you find that it's only foreigners. And then people will say, yes, we don't have a problem with you, we've always lived with you, but why are you the only ones employed? So comes Mashaba, and many of those people, not all of them, many of those people would find that they don't have the right documents because some of the establishments exploit them, which is very unfortunate because I'm going to give you 10 rand when I'm supposed to give you 50 rand. You're not going to complain because I'll remind you that you are here illegally and you will go and you need this money more than me. And then people exploit those. And then Mashaba comes and say, I don't want anyone who is illegal here. And then it strikes the right chord. And people will tell you, you'd struggle to simply walk Sakina in the CBD in Johannesburg because people are like to mark you. And chances are you will never be able to find who marked you because in most instances it will be people perhaps undocumented. Not, in this instance, it could be South Africans, it's possible, but what you find is that it has become a heaven for those who can't be traced. And Mashaba comes in and says, I'll deal with those. It strikes a chord with people. That is one of the reasons.
Do you want to have a look? I know you asked for this map, so should we look at that one?
So just to look at the context of what's playing out in the city of Johannesburg. So Maswili?
So the question that we must answer here is that if Action SA, the 16%, Action SA 16%, DA 25, ANC 34, PA 2.9, IFP 2.4, EFF 10.7. If Action SA was to form a government, which party would Mashaba go with?
It's going to be interesting because does he bring the baggage from having left the DA? Do you go back to the DA
After
and say,
everything he
okay,
said,
after everything
he said
that
about
has
the
been
party.
said on both sides,
Absolutely.
do they now find each other again?
There's something you said that they will be forced to work together. But here is what I know currently, is that the DA may work with Action SA, but I'll tell you why. What would be the big issue? Insofar as not giving Mashaba the mayoral chains. Because remember, once you give Mashaba the mayoral chains, you are again profiling him. He got profiled by being in the DA, by being the DA mayor who pushed the agenda which EFF claims to be theirs. So that would be the problem. I can tell you now, if Mashaba were to agree to work with the DA, they will not agree on the mayorship. That will be the stumbling block, is the mayorship.
Will he agree on the mayorship with the ANC if this happens, when...
There's no way. Actually, interestingly, Sakina was talking about the extreme parties.
I was talking about that one with the Freedom Front Plus and EFF.
And EFF would actually work very well together.
Who would work well together? Freedom Front Plus and EFF?
EFF and Action SA. Those
But,
ones will
but
work.
there's always
now
been some
here's
kind
the
of relationship with Herman Mashaba and the EFF. I mean, they have worked well together.
in the city of Joburg. But let's not be short-sighted about what's actually at play, because Action SA is not a one-man party.
Yeah.
Yes, Herman Mashaba is the face of the party, but it's not a one-man party.
Yeah.
Who are the other people behind Action SA? What ideology do they bring to the party, to the fore? What do they want? Because I think all of that will weigh heavily on where Action SA ultimately goes. But as you say, they should be careful not to overplay their hand,
Yes.
because they could be shut out altogether.
Absolutely. I think one of the things about Action SA is that, in fact, to your question, when the IEC announced the results of the donors to the parties, it was the ANC, it was the DA, and Action SA. And then what did that tell you? It tells you that there are people who perhaps believe in Mashaba in terms of advancing particular agendas. There are many people who are disgruntled with the DA and who feel perhaps the DA with Musi going may have reached the ceiling in terms of growth. But they would still want someone who will push the idea which is similar. Mashaba is very clear what he believes in terms of his liberal stance.
They say we're having too much fun.
We got to go. Can you believe it? They're telling us to go.
Somebody is switching the lights off on this party, pulling the plug on the music. So,
Okay. The
Vasily,
latest is that in the city of Joburg now we are sitting at 98% of declared VDs, which means from now on, anytime this morning, the national picture would change. 98% nationally,
well, we should be
2%
done
to go.
shortly.
Hang councils, we've got 64 now. Remember, it's from 27 in 2016. Now 64.
Well, we know that at 6 o'clock this evening, the IEC are going to be giving us that final result. The president will be here. The declaration will have everybody, all the political parties, no doubt gathered here, as well as, right, you've got a long day ahead of you. So
Absolutely.
waiting for that official announcement for the wrap of the local government elections of 2021.
and
Can you
please, we
believe
want to know who's willing to speak to whom. We know the behind-the-scenes wrangling. They know nothing stays secret, but try and get it on the record.
We
Right?
certainly will.
Thank you so much, Mike.
Of negotiations, reporting, and formation of those councils.
Lots of late night.
Lots
Can
of them
I
in
sleep
KZN.
and come back when you guys have decided?
Listen, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for watching us. We'll be back in the Johannesburg Auckland Park studio as we
After
see
all
the
this
lights
excitement.
switching off here at the IEC, and we wrap it up. But thank you for watching. Thanks for trusting us with your election coverage.
All right. And thanks so much for being with us. From the Rock, it's back to Auckland Park. It's back to Auckland Park. It's back to Auckland.